Is GOTY 2024 even that controversial? Sure, the DLC thing has caused a stir, and this last second rule change is there to put Elden Ring in, or is it there to keep something else out? And yes, there's absolutely snubs and questionable nominations. Yet, in such an explosive year at every level of the games industry, this may be a rare year where the GOTY insanity is comparatively tame. The nominees are expected. Even Shadow of the Erdtree, the game that is nominated as DLC, is not that controversial. Sure, people are very divisive about if DLC or an expansion should even be eligible, despite the RPG of the year being a Witcher 3 DLC a few years ago. Even if Elden Ring does end up winning, the headline, a fantastic, beloved game that is both one of the longest of 2024 and best received by gamers and critics alike, has won Game of the Year, it doesn't exactly hit that hard. If Shadow of the Erdtree was a standalone, if it was exactly the same but called Elden Ring 2, nobody would even be questioning it being nominated. And some have suggested replacement games, which is fair. 2024 was an amazing year for games. We have Helldivers 2, Stellar Blade, Dragon's Dogma 2, and several more that seem fair. However, some are saying Silent Hill 2, and this is where I put the foot down. How are you going to say Shadow of the Erdtree, a full-length, amazing game with all new content, is not worthy, yet Silent Hill 2 is a re-release of a retro game? Yes, they changed the combat and camera, but it is a visual remake of a game that already exists. How can a basic remake or remaster be fine when it isn't even new? And I know Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is gonna come up here, but it's a completely new game in every way. Even the narrative and character personalities are vastly changed for this game. But stuff like Silent Hill 2, Resident Evil 4 Remake, I'd much rather be encouraging the games industry to be making DLC that is Elden Ring quality than for them to keep having half the so-called new games each year be visual updates on old games. Just like Horse Armor kicked off the MTX nonsense, thank you Skyrim for making everyone decide to keep re-releasing the same game every single year. Bethesda, where terrible ideas go to be born. And that's another thing, if you're going to let a remake of a Game of the Year quality game to get nominated, what's stopping those games from just coming out again every single year? At least with DLC, it is completely new. And to be blunt, we all know these studios are obsessed with remastering their hit games as is. They don't need encouragement. I don't think anyone has to worry about them making DLC as good as Shadow of the Erdtree. And if you're going to ask me, do you really want to encourage the gaming industry to start making games DLC that is this good? Yes, I do want that. Please, give me that situation. If the game-winning Game of the Year this year causes that to happen, I'll have something to praise the award show on. But we know that ain't gonna happen because they can't make DLC this good. Now, we can talk corruption, controversy. If you look at the list of judges for the awards and see the mix of groups that you have zero trust for or no reason to have knowledge of, you're not alone. Half of these are media sites that hate gamers and spent months trying to ruin the studios behind some of the games on the voting list. Very reliable and impartial judges, I am sure. And the other half you might not even know of because they basically have nothing to do with video games. And some will look at this and say, why do you even care about the Game Awards? Why does it matter? Why bother thinking about it? The judges are out of touch and do not represent the audience even slightly. That can be true. But it can also be true that it is still important, that there is a reason to care. When the nominees were announced, almost all of the games saw a major boost in sales, with more important categories, of course, getting bigger boosts. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Metaphor sales doubled or tripled. That's very significant. And consider Balatro, a game that a lot of people's reaction to was, who? Think about how massive this can boost an indie game. This can turn a small studio from a moderate success to enough sales to fund the sequel overnight. And that's for the nominee announcement. When the show itself happens, all nominees will get another bump. People will be talking about all the games. Social media will be packed with people lamenting and talking up the games they thought should have won. Even not winning is beneficial as a nominee. And of course, winners get an even bigger boost. Then there is a recognition and praise and the good feeling for the developers. And it is a good thing for passionate devs that make great games for gamers to get the sort of recognition. It'd be better if it didn't come out with some sort of corruption baggage, of course, but it is good no matter what. So there can be both value in the show and what it does for studios, and recognition that there are some serious problems with the judging panel. And that's not even getting into the show itself, with its celebrities, some categories getting just listed out without even getting a reward speech chance, and the constant advertisements. Here's hoping we get a good show. Now, without further ado, here is my blitz through the awards. I'm going to say the prediction for what ends up winning at the actual show, followed by what should win if the judge panel was comprised of the most impartial of judges, myself and nobody else. Innovation and access. Veilguard. None. This is the participation trophy, and nobody participated quite like Veilguard. That is a game that I can look at and say, yeah, this game was released, and people played it in 2024. Well, I could say it was released in 2024. Best Action. Wukong. Stellar Blade. Adventure. Astrobot. Astrobot? Serious, this is a fun game with innovative controller use. Not a system seller by any means, but if you have a PS5, a must play. Adaptation. Arcane. I'll have to let someone suggest in the comments below what a good show to watch is, because I didn't watch anything worth watching this year. Anticipated. The GTA 6 award obviously goes to GTA 6. Monster Hunter Wilds is my pick, from the list at least, but where is Path of Exile 2? I don't think there's any question that is the most anticipated game of the year for me, although I guess technically it has already come out in early access. Art direction. Metaphor. Wukong. I'll also have to go for Unicorn Overlord and Stellar Blade deserving nominations for these games. They're both beautiful, and Unicorn Overlord needs to be recognized. It is crazy that this beautiful art style was developed on the PlayStation 2 and is not getting the praise it deserves for still being stunning decades later. Audio design. Hellblade 2. There's a major journalist hard-on for this game, as it is a walking simulator, and this was the most walking simulation I've ever walked. Astrobot deserves it, though. Community support. Baldur's Gate 3 is just beloved, but No Man's Sky has done some absolutely crazy things. Content creator. Another one that I'm not overly familiar with, as I don't watch too many of these people. I gotta say, though, Picora looks so out of place. One of these things is definitely not like the others. Congrats to the first war criminal nomination at the Game Awards. Debut Indie. Definitely going to be going to Villatro here. My choice is Palworld. I don't know why this game has been completely snubbed. Maybe it's because it's in early access, but it did appear on the list of games allowable for the community picks. But there's no question that this game made a massive impact on the first half of the year. One of the best-selling games of all time, one of the most played games of all time. And for an indie game, that is absolutely stunning. Family Game of the Year. Astrobot, and it's also Astrobot. Fighting. Tekken 8, Dragon Ball Z, Sparking Zero. Have to respect the manga goat. Game direction. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Black Myth Wukong. Impact. Hellblade 2 has a great message on fat acceptance by making you walk for 4 hours straight. Another Crab's Treasure, though, should have been considered for having an environmentalist message that fits the theme of the game naturally and doesn't bash you over the head. Indie game. Balatro, again. And Palworld, again. Mobile. Probably going to go to Balatro. Zenless Zone Zero has grown on me quite a bit. Multiplayer. COD BO6. Although Helldivers 2 absolutely deserves the win, and it dominated the first few months of 2024. If it came out in September, it would definitely be a Game of the Year nominee, and it missing is an absolute disgrace. Music. Metaphor. Stellar Blade. These are both great choices. We're comparing Almost Persona to Almost Nier Automata. I would like both to win, and I'll be fine either way. Best Narrative. Metaphor, and I think that one's a metaphor as well. Ongoing Game. Fortnite's probably going to win this one. My favorite's still Final Fantasy XIV, even if Dawn Trail has some issues and is a bit behind other expansions. Performance. Aerith Sweet. Her and Tifa had just great chemistry. And then add Yuffie to the mix and it was a great team. Very entertaining to watch. Brought a lot of life to characters that we've loved for decades at this point. Best RPG. Metaphor is probably going to win this one. And yet, Erdtree would be my choice for the category. In terms of being an RPG, Erdtree was everything I want and does it better than everyone else. Epic Game, RPG of the Year, and even if we were to consider previous year rules, making Erdtree questionable for the Game of the Year nomination, Blood and Wine was an RPG nomination in previous years. Sports Game of the Year. I have a feeling Electronic Arts is going to win this one. Sim Strategic Game. Unicorn Overlord and Unicorn Overlord. This game got brutally snubbed. It should have been in more categories. I'd even consider it a top 6, so in my Game of the Year nominee list. It's beautiful, it's fun, it's unique, great game, and it deserves more notice. VR AR. Probably going to go to Batman, but I'm waiting for Sword Art Online and Full Dive before I give this category any cares. And at long last, the one you were here for. Game of the Year. Game of the Year is going to go to Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, with a possible second to Metaphor. My vote is Black Myth Wukong, but my personal Game of the Year was snubbed because the entire contest is rigged and we all know it. Stellar Blade is the best game I played this year. It had the most fluid and fun action combat, beautiful areas to explore, a new IP from a breakout studio, starring a strong independent woman with potential to become a lasting franchise. It is approaching 100 outfits, all aside from the near collab being free and obtained in the game. This game did everything right. It filled so many of the demands of journalists. It was also well beloved by gamers, and yet it was snubbed, attacked, hated, all because these fat, ugly femcel losers, if we were to use their terminology, are terrified of beautiful women. We know this, they know this, everyone knows this. Journalists enjoy the layoffs. Your stain on the gaming industry will be wiped clean by your own doing your own actions. Merry Christmas. 2024 is one of the best years in gaming of all time. Remember to support indie games, and a Happy New Year in 2025.